part the show today. We'll focus on Chelsea. Joining me this evening is Emmanuel Michael, and we're back together to dish out all the latest in sports. The Mike, welcome to the show.
Yeah, good evening, Temple. Good evening to our viewers out there. Always a delightful moment to do this with you.
Always a delightful moment. Chelsea Football Club rampage with injury concerns and worries, and one would think that the international window has come and gone, and there are a lot of preparation for the the weekend. And of course, Chelsea Football Club, they also want to strive hard to get close to the at least maybe continental ticket. How possible would that be with the injury concerns they have now?
I think for me, it's going to be a very big mountain hill for them to climb at this point in time. Looking at how far they have actually struggled since the start of this season under Mauricio Pochettino and under a new owner, I think for me it's going to be a very, very difficult one. Looking at where they are seated right now on the Premier League table, I think for me, it's going to take more like a miracle. In fact, they are out of the top 4 race as it stands right now, coupled with the injury that have also ravaged the squad. I think it's a very, very tricky situation for Chelsea Football Club. I do not see them qualifying for, the top 4. Maybe if they get to up their game, possibly they might finish within the Europa, or possibly passing through the back door. That is, if they get to win the Carling Cup, that might also give them an advantage to pass through the back door and make it to the third tier of the European football, which is the UEFA Europa League. But for express passes right from the league, I think it's quite difficult. They are seated in the 11th position as it stands right now. Manchester United, Tottenham, Aston Villa. These are some of the clubs as well that is also battling to ensure that they finish very strong to at least get a continental ticket. So for me, I think it's going to be a very big, difficult call for Chelsea this season. And of course, also coupled with the fact that they had to, deal with a lot of injuries is also a very, very big setback for Chelsea Football Club. Then no thanks again for the policy of the new owner, talking about Todd Bowley, who came and they think because he has the money to spend out there, he's going to just get rid of the old and experienced player that Chelsea had in order to bring new and fresh, players as well too, and he expect the coach to be doing perfectly well. I think that is where their problem actually started, because if you look at the Chelsea squad, they had to let go of about 8 or 9 key players, the likes of Cesar Azpilicueta, the likes of Christian Pulisic, the likes of Loftus-Cheek, the likes of Massimo, to mention but a few. So for me, you don't actually let go of your first key players, just because you want to rebuild. We understand there is this need for you to incorporate young players into the squad, but then you must allow these old hands to also stay and be able to coach these younger ones to take up the mantle of leadership from them. But that is what they actually failed to do, and it has come back haunting them, this season. So for me, I think it's going to be a very difficult call for Chelsea to make it through Europa this season.
Difficult one, but then everything is still on check. They will play Burnley on Saturday.
Yeah.
Like I said, they sit at 11th, and it look like a lot of expectation, for them already. But one thing very striking is that, like you said correctly too, they've imputed a lot in making this season a good one, and it looks like the boys. Everything have analyzed by saying that Chelsea have a young team, but the bane of the setup is the lack of experience from that side, and that seems to be the challenge, because if we had some of the players stay back at the time they left, maybe we would have seen an improvement. Maybe we would have seen a better Chelsea competing with this, bringing in this young lad. They also have the same team, but the blend of experience there just made the difference for them.
Definitely, that is what is making the difference for them. If Chelsea has let stay of some of their old war horse, I think that should have been a dead advantage for them, because some of these young lads will also want to, take correction from these big boys in quote. But bringing in the likes of young players such as Kane Chukwuemeka, the likes of Noni Madueke, the likes of Nicolas Jackson, the likes of Cole Palmer, the likes of, Enzo Fernandez, Moise Caicedo. These are young lads that truly need to be tutored by some of the old hands to be able to gain the experience needed so as to carry Chelsea very strong this season. So for me, I think it's a team that is made up of young and inexperienced players out there. The average age of the Chelsea squad right now, I think the highest is Thiago Silva, who is 29, getting to 30 or thereabout. The rest of them is ranked below the age of 25. That is to tell you how young the squad is. You talk about the only other experienced player in the mix as well is possibly maybe Rhys James, who is the captain of the side, that have also been plagued with a lot of injury. Ben Chilwell, as well. These are the names that you call that will come to your mind that you think maybe they are some of the experienced players. But take out, the likes of Thiago Silva, take out the likes of Ben Chilwell, Rhys James, who has also grown under, the Chelsea academy. I think generally we say that inexperience is one of the, issues that Chelsea is actually facing this season, coupled with the injuries. So for me, I think the greatest undoing for the Chelsea Football Club is to, for their new owner to, end out their frustration of Todd Bowley inability to be able to integrate or also carry the Chelsea fans along in their decision making and all of that. So I think for me, these are some of the things that have actually, make Chelsea Football Club look ordinary in the last, 2 years right now. So for me, I think there's a lot that is expected from Mauricio Pochettino as well to keep building. A lot also expected from the side of Todd Bowley to also take a look at his policy, the one that is not in tandem with the fans as well. I think he needs to quash some of those policy and begin to get closer to the club fans out there, and also give the manager, the long-term, vision for the manager to actually build a very strong squad, because they have a couple of young and talented players that, if given the time, I tell you, in the next 2-3 years, Chelsea will be back where they belong.
Chelsea will be back where they belong, and of course, we are still straying the injury concerns, around the Chelsea team. And of course, no doubt, a lot has truly happened. If you want to compare and contrast what is going on at Stamford Bridge, Todd Bowley, the new man who is in the hem of affairs of Chelsea, and also we saw Mauricio Pochettino also doing, a whole lot, hoping that he can rejuvenate the season, but it's not just working. And when you look at it now, it looks like they are out of the scene, because the reasons you talked about, Chris Nkunku and this long Lavia, also an injury concern, and it looks like that won't happen. They've won 2 games, lost 1, and drew 2 in their last 5 games against Burnley. I don't know, seated 13, they are now 39th, 11th on the log. It looks like the season may not be over, but they still have, I think they have a final to play, or a semi-finals, to play against one of the big teams.
It's a semi-final to play against Manchester City. Of course, Chelsea will lock on with Manchester City, while Manchester United will take on Coventry. If they get past Manchester City in the Carling Cup, then they are going to head into the final, which possibly square up against the team that emerged victorious between Manchester United and Coventry City. That is why I say that is the only route for now for Chelsea to get to, play European football. And I think for me, having lost the FA Cup final in the very, abnormal manner, where Liverpool has to field in some of the young boys out there, some of the kids in quotes, for the final, one expected Chelsea to actually, at least lift that FA Cup final against Liverpool, so as to give their fans something to cheer about for this season. But then it wasn't to be, as they actually fell to that long goal from the captain of the side, talking about Virgil van Dijk at the extra time of the game. Now they also have a chance to also make another claim for themselves. That is why I say that the only route they have to get to Europe is through the Carling Cup. If they can actually get Manchester City over, and then wait for the opponent between Manchester United and Coventry City. So they still have a chance to also redeem themselves from the abysmal outing so far this season.
Just have themselves have a lot to still redeem, and it depends on what plays out, in the FA Cup. But we hope that some of this will come to reality. And away from Chelsea now, away from Stamford Bridge, let's look at what is going to happen this weekend. And of course, the biggest of them all, if you want to talk about this weekend game, will be the game between Arsenal and Manchester City. And this looks like a make or break. You look at the tide, they are on the same point with Liverpool. And Liverpool will be hoping that anything will happen, just like we also Arsenal fans also prayed for the international break that anything happened between the both sides. So you think a draw will be good for Arsenal or an outright win, but can they win City?
Well, it's a very, very big, difficult call to make right now, because for me, looking at since Pep Guardiola came into England, the English Premier League, he has actually had the better part, the better hand of Arsenal, having won Arsenal about 16 times. Arsenal have just managed to win Pep Guardiola only one time. That tells you the disparity between Pep Guardiola and Mikel Arteta. That tells you the disparity between Manchester City and Arsenal Football Club since Pep Guardiola stepped his feet in the shores of the English Premier League. So for me, I think it's going to be a very difficult call to make. Just like you said, it's going to be a make or a break game, a make or a mark game for Arsenal. You know, seated with the same point with Liverpool, but they have a goal difference between them and Liverpool. They are just 1 point ahead of Manchester City. And of course, when you get to this season, this kind of period in the season, expect Manchester City of Pep Guardiola to, go to their Arsenal and unleash whatever, ammunition that they have in their armory to be able to gun down the Gunners in this weekend show, so as to topple, Arsenal in the league out there. So for me, I think, while Arsenal will be hoping to do the unthinkable by defeating Manchester City as well have their own plan cut out as well by making sure that they take all 3 points against Arsenal so as to have a claim on who sit at the apex or the zenith of the English Premier Football League. But then I think some of the coaches, the two coaches rather, have some worries in their squad as well, because we hear the likes of Kyle Walker, John Stone, even Erling Haaland during the international window. Some of these players sustain 1 or 2 injuries or the other, but we don't know whether they are going to take part in the game. And if you talk about Arsenal as well, they also have their own issues. Bukayo Saka was invited for the English national team for the international break, but then he was unable to play that game. They had to send him back to Arsenal because according to them, that he got injured. Martinelli is still out injured. So these are some of the key players that should have made the difference in Arsenal game. But then let's hope that Bukayo Saka bounces back to take part in that very one. But one thing is certain, is going to be a very keenly contested encounter between Arsenal and Manchester City come this weekend.
Certainly, of course, it promises to be a strong and engaging battle, between Arsenal and Manchester City, and that game will be hosted at the Etihad, so it's going to be more bubbling. It's difficult to win Manchester City at the Etihad, and at this point of the season, I don't think that that will be an easy fight at all. But you have to look at the indices. There was a big blow, like you talk about Kyle Walker and John Stones, first off from injury while away with the 3 Lions of England, and the both of them the possibility of playing, it looks very slim in this particular one. And then for Arsenal too, we talked about Bukayo Saka, and so it's a 1-1. But then, for that, I look at Pep Guardiola, he may indeed like to reshuffle. So we might call on the services of Edison, who is likely to return after missing City's game, against Newcastle because of the injury concern that he has before the international break. And for them too, he has to hope on the positivity of getting Erling Haaland fit enough, to play for his side, because he played twice for Norway. So hopefully he can also be part of this particular one. And many more. But this for City, it looks like, okay, 2 players are out, but you'll be surprised the way he rejigged the system. And that's why a lot of people think that Pep is the master of tactics. He plays with it, and it doesn't matter who is going out or not. You'll be surprised how that place will be engaging. He brings in somebody from the substitute bench, and that person makes the magic that day. So for Pep, it looks like they have a better advantage compared to Arsenal's injury concerns.
Yeah, for me, I think Pep always have a better advantage over Arsenal and over Mikel Arteta. Don't forget, Arteta is a prodigy of Pep Guardiola. He actually understudies his coaching, issues or his coaching lances or thereabout, the experience that he has today and what he's doing with Arsenal is courtesy of Pep Guardiola, because he actually, underwent that coaching study under Pep Guardiola. And of course, Pep Guardiola actually is the master, and definitely you expect him to also, make some difference, most especially when it has to do with playing Arsenal. And Pep Guardiola has an injury worries. You could be surprised the way he twerks his team around and get the best out of some players that you naturally think that they don't have what it takes to be, in the big stage and to deliver. But then, looking at the tactical prowess and, managerial acumen of Pep Guardiola over the years, you cannot actually rule out Pep Guardiola being able to cover that space or that loopholes, that he created because of the injury worries of Kyle Walker and Justo. So for me, the quality of Pep Guardiola as regards to coaching has never been in doubt. And I tell you, not at this point where he's aiming, to go for the league. Don't forget, even when he was seated third on the log, at some point they began to lose some grip in the title chase. He made it very clear. He came to the media and he told the world that he's still very much in the race, that he's going to win this title. He made it emphatically clear. This is where other teams were 5 points and 6 points ahead. So, I mean, when he comes up to make such an ambiguous statement, you don't take it for granted, because this man fully have made the English Premier League to look more like a farmers' league.
But this isn't going to achieve that.
Of course, very, very possible.
Possible. I mean, get win against Arsenal.
Sure, Arsenal is never a worry. For the fact that Arsenal had to beat them in the Carling Cup, I think I am not perturbed, because I know what Pep Guardiola brings to the table. Don't forget, it's also buoyed by the fact that he's doing pretty well in the Champions League as well. So, who knows? He might possibly want to, go for the treble, because he's still very much in the chase for the treble, the league, the Champions League, and the Carling Cup. And whenever a trophy is involved, Pep Guardiola doesn't play with you. So I still think that he has the advantage over Arsenal.
Okay, let's take a look at how Arsenal looks as of today in preparation for the weekend game. 31st, and this is going to be a showdown, because a lot of expectation from this game. Arsenal, also had challenge with Bukayo Saka. We talked about him earlier. He was removed so that the hamstring injury and all that. Centre back Gabriel Magalhaes was also not key part of the Brazilian national team because of inflammation. We also talk about it. I mean, the hope of Takehiro Tomiyasu coming back for Arsenal, and as well as Thomas Partey. This looks like a positive for Arteta, but like Pep, like Mikel Arteta. And so it looks like if there's one man who understands, who is more hungry for for glory, like we saw last season, should be Mikel Arteta. And what Pep knows, looks like Mikel Arteta might have also understood him and or understudied him, and he knows it too. So you look at the both sides of the divide, and you think that Mikel Arteta, while others have gone to international break, I saw him in an interview, and he said when you are coming back from international break to play a certain Pep Guardiola and his team, you don't go for international break as a coach. You have to be in the club to understand tactics and all that. And I'm sure he has done that this week. So he has his hand full, to dish out, regardless of what happens. He knows that he needs to get a point against Pep to stay at the top of the English Premier League.
Yeah, he knows the responsibility and the tax, enormous tax per se, that stand ahead of him. And of course, when losing the league last season to this same Manchester City, I think Mikel wants to make up for that disappointment of that last season. You saw how they seated in the table for about 248 days in the EPL, the highest ever in the history of the Premier League. But then, at the nick of time, they actually bottled the league, and it was to the chagrin and dismay of most Arsenal fans out there all over the world that they couldn't be able to lift that very one after how many years of wait. Then, I think they are also being haunted by that disappointment of that last season, and that is why they've also deemed it necessary to beef their squad in some key areas which they think was their greatest undoing last time, because last season when Bukayo Saka actually got injured at the tail end of the season, actually affected Arsenal because that squad depth wasn't there, and that is why they went to the market, covered a huge amount of money, getting the likes of Jurriel Timber, though out injured. But Declan Rice out there doing pretty well since he came into the squad. Kai Havertz, one player that was most criticized by Arsenal fans at the early stage, but then he has been able to pick up his mojo and is a very, very vital member of the squad right now. So looking at all of this addition into the Arsenal kitty this season by Mikel Arteta, it clearly tells you that indeed that disappointment of last season is still in his mind. And of course, he wants to make amends, for this season. But I tell you, he's going to have it a handful of coming up against his master. And of course, there are some tricks, and techniques that your master know that he might not, divulge to you in all. So Pep Guardiola still called the big shot, but that is not to take anything away from, the work or what Mikel Arteta have done so far this season. He talked about the injury worries and all of that, but then I truly understand the position of Arsenal. But if you ask me if there is any team that need this league more than any other clubs, I think it should be Arsenal. But then Arsenal, they also need to ask themselves this season, what are their priority? Is their priority bent on lifting the English Premier League, or is their priority bent on going to the final of the Champions League and lift it, of which this is one elusive trophy that Arsenal have not laid their hand on? And that is why when some Chelsea fans is talking and hailing, when Arsenal fans come to badmouth them, they will still remember them that painful aspect of it, that after all, you are a local champion. You haven't won a Champions League before. And Chelsea have done it twice, 2012, 2021. So that bragging right is there. So Arsenal should try to prioritize, what they want for this season. Is it the league or is it the Champions League? Because if they are going in for the two, I tell you, it will go elusive.
Because but we're going to talk about that when we come back from this short time out. But before we go for this short break, Newcastle midfielder Sandro Tonali has been charged with misconduct in relation to alleged breaches of the Football Association betting rules. Tonali is alleged to have a breach an FA rule 50 times by betting on matches between August last year and then October last year. The 23-year-old has until April 5th to respond. Tonali was signed by Newcastle for £55 million last summer from AC Milan, but in October he was hit with a ban for betting on matches with Milan. So this looks like, I mean, when you're coming from those players who come from Serie A, you won't be surprised with some of their action, but I think we've heard about this before, but finally that is not authenticated.
Yeah, I think it's a quite disappointing one to see some players, even though they've also amassed a lot of wealth for themselves. They're playing for some of the biggest clubs in the world, making a huge amount of money weekly and yearly for themselves, but then it looks as though the lure for more money still pushes them. I don't know whether I would call it addiction, because if you talk about money, I think they have a cool cash in their pocket out there, but then they still want to aim for more, and that is why you see some of them, still engulfed with this betting, FIFA. We've seen the likes of Ivan Toney just finish his 8-month ban over this same, breach of anti-betting rules out there. We've seen another Italian, Sandro Tonali, to mention but a few. There are some of the players in the past as well, even present, that is still being fingered for, breaching the rules out there. I think for me, it's a quite disappointing one for Sandro Tonali and for Newcastle, because Newcastle is certainly going to miss him. And looking at what he has added to the Newcastle squad since they bought him, I think he has been very, very great. Missing such a very valuable and a key player for Newcastle is certainly going to affect them.
His original suspension was for 10 months. He was also fined around £17,000 and order to take part in 8 months course of therapy to address this issue. The ban now means that Tonali isn't able to play competitive football again until August this year. Although he's free to train with Newcastle and play in friendlies, he will also be unable to play for Italy this summer's Euros. And the good thing about it is, okay, he can train with the side. So what he does is every week you train and you leave. This is April, by next week April, and then if the appeal fails, you have to stay till August. And no club will be happy. But let's see what Newcastle have said. Referring to the latest charge from the FA, Newcastle statement reads, Newcastle United acknowledge a misconduct charge received by Sandro Tonali in respect of alleged breaches of FA betting rules. And they went on to quote again, quote and unquote, Sandro continues to fully comply with relevant investigation and he retains the club's full support. Due to this ongoing process, Sandro and Newcastle United are unable to make further comments at this time. I think I love the express nature of the reaction from Newcastle United.
Definitely, this is what you have when you give, partial support to one of your own. At least it's good to know that they still enjoy the support of the club out there, though they are very, very cautious about the statement that they released out there, and that is why they did not go further. They said at this point in time, this is what they have to say. They fully acknowledge, the charge, but then they also admit that they are working, tirelessly with, Sandro as well, and Sandro also is cooperating with the relevant authority to ensure that, this thing is sorted out and, find out to the later what seems to be the issue. But then I think for me, if they get to, file, maybe kind of court case to see if he's actually innocent or not, that is also going to be another issue, because if he fails on that court suit, then they are going to further elongate his ban period out there. But in all, I just think that Newcastle is being very, very professional in the way and manner they are going about it. There are some clubs, whenever they are hit with such punishment with one of their players, you see them coming to the media to express their displeasure. You see that you go to the media and say that they are expressing their displeasure for the decision of the FA to ban their players and all of that. But then I think Newcastle is being very, very professional.
But what is the difference between that of Tony, Ivan Tony of Brentford, and this one that concerns Tonali? Because all are betting rules.
Yeah, all are betting rules. This one took place out there in Italy, and they are still investigating it. EPL, the English, Premier League to Italy, at least you need a whole lot of paperwork, you need a whole lot of clearance to be able to go to Italy and also cooperate with the relevant body out there in Italy, so as you can be able to share ideas and find out what seems to be the true state of things. So these are some of the things that made it to linger. If not, it's about 3-4 months, down the line where we've heard of this issue, but they are still working behind the closed door to ensure that, proper investigation is done before they can actually release an authentic message.
Tonali will face possible sanctions, which will be decided by an independent commission. That is if he goes on to appeal, and he will be able to accept or deny the 50 charges in his response. So it all depends on what he thinks. If I were him, I would just calm down, because the FA cannot investigate him for 3 months, and then you think that those investigations are fouled. I think it's difficult. It's really difficult. It takes only to be emotion, as one of the in recent time to have been investigated by a particular sports unit, and she's yet to be found wanting. Very difficult, I must tell you. Very difficult. All right, let's go on a quick break now. When we come back, we'll come back and still talk about club football. We're not done. We're still looking at what is happening in club football, and focus on Arsenal, Manchester City. We also have some news from the Nigerian scene as well as our national team. And Nigeria is now ranked 28th in the world according to FIFA. Today, don't go anywhere.
With the goal. Goalkeeper missed it. He does a right hand and down goes Paul straight away. Oh, what a point to end it on. So now this is when they're at their best. That's when they're 12 years for this. So drink it in. Still goes through on New Zealand. What he loves to be immortality as an athlete. 19.79. It's a goal. It's 8 goals.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honourable
You human trafficker.
Honourable
Greenwoods went for goal. Goalkeeper missed it. Fight Wembley. Does the right hand and down goes Hall straight away. Oh, what a point to end it on.
So now this is when they're at their best. That's when they're
12 years for this. So drink it in. Still goes through on New Zealand. What he loves to be immortality as an athlete. 19.79. It's a goal. It's 8 goals.
All right, welcome back from that break. If you're just joining us, this is Sports Extraordinary Steel, and we are we're looking at some football matters. This afternoon, the news broke Nigeria now ranked 28 in the world according to FIFA, and a lot of people have been reacting that Nigeria going by their last friendly students. I mean, a lot of people are surprised that Nigeria can be ranked that high, but are you surprised?
No, I'm not surprised at all. The reason being that at least we actually did pretty well in the just concluded African Cup of Nations, where nobody actually gave Nigeria a chance to even make it through the group stage, but then we were able to make it pass through the group stage and also get to the final, playing the final against the host nation, talking about the Ivorians out there. We lost in the final. That have definitely given us a much needed advantage to also, step up a bit from the rankings out there. And again, winning Ghana as well is not for us to step in the, at least in the table that was released a few hours ago. So if you ask me, I think I'm not surprised. I also hope to see us continue to climb in this direction, because I could remember after the US 94 when Nigeria was ranked 5th in the world. I think that is the highest we've ever come across, and I still hope to see when the Super Eagles will go back in the days where where we'll be making that name again for ourselves, because I think it's over how many years right now we've not made it to the top 10, which is quite disappointing for a nation that has a whole lot of footballing talent out there all over the world. It was very, very bad. In fact, it's an aberration for me if we are not rated among the top 10 in the world, because we boast a whole lot of great talent out there. Presently, as we are talking, we are the 16th most valuable team in the world, and you know what that means. So I think we truly need to live up to the billing. We need to truly improve the Super Eagles, our pattern of play in terms of getting the result, in terms of organizing grade A friendly games and all of that, to ensure that we continue to move very high up there in the ranking. So for me, I think it's a big one. Let's hope that if they finish sorting out on who becomes the substantive coach of the Super Eagles, such manager or gaffer is going to build on this game going forward.
going forward, but surprisingly, I mean, regardless of the run of the elephants of Ivory Coast in Africa, they are not even in the top three. They are 39th in the world, and it looks like they have a lot. They have to do a whole lot. They must get close to at least the top 4 team.
Yes, of course, I totally agree. The Ivorians, they need to do a lot in terms of, the ranking, the world ranking. Even before the African Cup of Nations, they were not seated in a very good position out there. I think seated 39th so far in this latest ranking, because of the fact that they actually won the African Cup of Nations. If not, they should have been seated maybe way beyond 35, maybe 50-something, but because of winning that African Cup of Nations has also given them an edge. And of course, the last time they were seated or they were ranked in a very good position was where the boast of the golden generation, the likes of Didier Drogba, Solomon Kalou, to mention but a few. I think then they were seated in a very good position in Africa, in the world as well. But since then, the Ivorians have actually struggled. They've actually, not been able to live up to that hype. So for me, I think they truly need to do a lot. Thanks to the new manager talking about Emerson Faye, who has come to change the narrative. If continue in this format, don't forget they just won in their last friendly games against a very strong European side. So for me, I think it's a good one if they can continue to, replicate this fine form, every month. I see them climbing, up the ladder.
And then, of course, you look at Africa, no argument as to who is topping, because we have that man doing so well for himself. I mean, the country, Morocco, they are state 12th in the world, and first in Africa we have Senegal, second, and I mean, they are seated 17th in the world and second in Africa. And then you talk about Team Nigeria. Nigeria are now the third best team now in Africa. And they are seated 28 in the world. I'm happy because it's been a long time we get close to the second, even if we have the likes of Egypt 36th in the world, 4th, and Cote d'Ivoire 5th. That's how far Algeria, talk about other countries, Mali, so these are, but in the world it's still Argentina, France, and England, Belgium, and maybe Brazil, top 5 teams in the world.
Yeah, not surprising. I think for me, truly deserving to be seated there. Winning a World Cup is not mean feat after so many years. I think Argentina, with their performance in the last World Cup in Qatar, has actually given them that edge. And of course, seeing France as well, who got to the World Cup final as well, making it to the second position, also truly deserving. England, of course, you saw their exploit in the last Euros after so many years of fruitless attempt to ensure that get very good medals for themselves after the 1960-something World Cup. England have find it very difficult to make a strong statement in terms of racking up laurels for the national team in terms of football. So I think their last performance at the Euro and some of the build-up friendly games that have actually taken part over the past couple of months have also put them in a very good position, and that is why they are third. Talking about the likes of Belgium, and the rest of the team out there, I think for me, looking at it holistically, I think these first 5 countries in the world truly deserve their place, looking at their performance in the last 12 months.
Looking at their performance in the last 12 months, and of course, we're still reviewing some of the incidents, but let's move now to tennis and some happenings. Daniel Medvedev has qualified to the semi-finals, and he will be playing against Yannick Sinner. I talked about him this morning.
Yeah.
And he defeated Nicolas Jarry 6-2, 7-6. Very strong tiebreak there for he got that particular one. As stands now, Alexander Zverev is on against Fabian Morozan. He's still leading in the first set, but that game is yet to be over. In the women scene, Ekaterina Alexandrova defeated Jessica Pegula 3-6, 6-4, 6-4 in a very tricky encounter. And then we also saw, and she went ahead, to play. After playing that game, she went and played the, what's it called? She played the doubles, and of course they lost in double. Talking about Ekaterina, a lady who just finished playing singles. A few moments from there, she went and played the, but they lost in that particular one. But then, but this evening, 8 p.m., it will be time for Elena Rybakina versus Victoria Azarenka. So whoever wins now will now have proper pairing for the female. Don't forget that yesterday we saw some of the ladies, who have already qualified. They talk about the likes of Elena Rebekina is already waiting in the semi-finals. We'll talk about the likes of Danielle Collins also in the semi-finals. So, I mean, the stage is set now, and you're asking yourself, apart from Elena Rebekina, Danielle Collins have not been in the semi-finals for a very long time. So, Elena Rebekina, Danielle Collins, and then you talk about the ones who are going, we now know, Katerina Alexandrova, and either of Elena Rebekina and Victoria Azarenka. So, definitely one of them surely would be in the semis.
I think for me, Irina Rebekina is really deserving to be there
Against
in the
Victoria
semis.
Azarenka?
Yes, and no doubt, Azarenka is a good player, but looking at Rebekina game so far, in her last 5 games, I've actually watched her game very closely. There seems to be a lot more improvement compared to other players out there. Of course, having taken down some of the big names already out of the WTA in this year's Miami Open, the likes of Iga Swiatek, the likes of Onjogba, the likes of Naomi Osaka, to mention Botafi, they are already out of the equation. So some of the big names that is remaining, I think Rebekina is one of the favorites, to get to the final for me. So, but then you can never tell. This is a competitive game, and of course you understand when it has to do with the WTA, there's always that jostle to ensure that I finish very strong. Of course, 1,000 points is at stake and a huge amount of money as well. So, these are some of the things that is going to even make the game even more interesting.
Things that will make the game very much interesting. And just breaking right now, Chelsea women have qualified to the semi-finals of this year's UEFA Champions League. They defeated the Ajax, while Lyon also qualified against Benfica. So a lot still await that particular one. But let's come back home and let's talk about the NFF. The NFF has ruled out, shortlisted 6 names, that will be going to become the coach of the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Finidi George is in the list alongside others, and a lot of people haven't seen what Finidi George did in recent time. I don't know where the pendulum will swing to, but your thought on Finidi George and the possibility of getting this particular one?
Well, my thought on Finidi George is simple. I've never changed or shifted my position when it has to do with Finidi George. I would say time without number that I think at this point Finidi George is not ripe for a Super Eagles job. Judging by the 2 games, of course, I can't actually totally judge him with these last 2 games that he's played, though he won Ghana. But then you ask yourself, in the last 10 games that the Black Stars of Ghana have actually played so far, they just managed 1 win out of the last 10 games, and that tells you how bad it is for the Ghanaian side. They've actually been struggling so far. So for Nigeria to get the better of them under interim regime of Finidi George, I do not actually fancy that victory that much. Why? Because we also had to play with one-man advantage because the Ghanaians got red card. So if we were to be 11-11 on the pitch, I do not think that Finidi George should have gotten that victory. But one will say that red card is part of the game. But I'm just looking at the point of the Ghanaians' form. They have not been in good form. Like I said, they have actually played 10 games. In their last 10 games, they managed to win just 1, and that is how bad their form has been this season. And playing against Mali, I think we should have been able to get all 3 points, not just get all 3 points against Mali, but to win them convincingly. Because for me, I think Mali, we are head above Mali in terms of football. I think we boast of the best squad out there. Though Coach Finidi George came out to say that because of the injury worry of some of his key players, that is the reason. But for me, I think that reason, like I will keep saying, it's not tenable enough, for me. So for Finidi George, I will keep saying it. Finidi George is not ripe for the national team job. We hear that the NFF technical committees were divided into 2. Some are for foreign coach, while some are for the local coach. But then, in the last 24 hours, we also hear that those that is going for the local coach have actually picked Emmanuel Amunike as the favorite. So if you have Finidi George in the mix as not a bad one, but I tell you, if we truly want to maintain this good ranking that is just released by FIFA, we need to go for a certified coach, a coach that has proven track record that can be able to mold these Super Eagles to get us the World Cup ticket, to get us the African Cup of Nations ticket, because this is the crux of the matter. Any coach that is coming in right now should be ready to give us the World Cup ticket, because any coach that comes in and is unable to give us the World Cup ticket, I think it's going to be another failure for us.
Meanwhile, Arsenal have confirmed that Ethan Nwaneri has signed his first professional contract with the club. The English youth international joined the Gunners in May 2015 and has developed through the academy. Last season, he made 14 appearances in all competition, scoring 14 goals. Nwaneri also featured in the first team, coming in as a substitute in the 6-0 win over West Ham in the English Premier League last month, and he made history in September when he became the youngest player to ever feature in an English top flight match. He was 15 and 181 days old as at that time. This name sounds like a Nigerian, but finally it looks like Nigerians will be interested very soon because he said he should be the future player of the Super Eagles.
Definitely.
If I thought they've learned anyway.
Yeah, definitely. If at all they've learned, because we still have the likes of, Berechieze, Michael Olise, and to mention but a few who also have not made it a point of duty to pick up Nigeria as their national team. But then I think for Arsenal, it seems as though they have this affiliation and love for Nigerian players, for Nigerian talent. This season alone, looking at the ranks of Arsenal youth team players, they've actually signed about 3 Nigerians so far, right from the under 4, 6, 11, and all of that. So I think it's a great thing for us here in Nigeria to see that Arsenal Football Club, one of the biggest clubs in the EPL in quotes, is actually having a likeness for Nigerian players. I think for me it's going to be a plus for us. Let's hope that Nwaneri will continue to grow and very strong. Let's hope that as well that the Nigerian football scouting team as well, the NFF scouting team, so putting their eyes on the ground to be able to look out for some of these young lads, because this is the time that you need to start convincing them to see the need of playing for the national team, not where they've actually gained that maturity. That is where you begin to go for them. It becomes very